Hi, ma'am. So,
Hi.
first question is, ma'am, could you please introduce yourself, like a brief introduction about yourself?
Okay. So my name is Vaiji Ragunathan. I'm a lawyer. So I have my own advisory work and I'm on the board of some startups. And I also teach as visiting faculty at one of the universities in Gurgaon, private universities in Gurgaon. So that's on the work front. And home front, I'm married and I have two kids that I'm taking care of. Who are, teenagers. So, yes, there's like managing both,
Yeah,
I don't know, finding a balance somewhere and trying to manage both. Yes.
yeah, that's great. Do you have any previous medical history, if you don't mind answering that?
Sure. I'm actually a diabetic and I have been on medication for the last 10 years.
Okay, in the light of diabetes and COVID, do you think you come under a higher risk factor since you're diabetic, or are there any extra precautions that you're taking since you're diabetic?
Yeah, one medication is very important, and obviously, all social distancing and sanitizing becomes even more important because just that my levels have to be at normal. I have to ensure that I keep my levels more or less around the normal zone.
Yes, ma'am, that's right. Ma'am, since you're a teacher, like you mentioned, are you
Right.
teaching online right now, or do you go to the university to teach?
No, I'm actually teaching online. So I just had to go in a few times into the university, but most of my teaching since March when the whole thing started has been online.
Okay, so what's your experience with like online classes, keeping in mind the fact that you were probably new to the technology and
Right,
students might not be as attentive and video on, video off, mute, unmute,
right,
basically new features on Zoom.
right. So we actually use Teams. Uh, so the thing was, it just required me to adapt to the change as quickly as possible. Okay, so things like spending hours figuring out what the technology was, and with no help. So it meant getting back to work, getting to understand the technology, and still ensuring that food is actually cooked and laid on the table at least four times a day. Of course, my husband and kids have been helpful, but there are times when we were just stretched on all fronts, but we still had to do it, right? So, and there was no way, just had to adapt, which meant that putting in more hours to figure out, how to use the technology. So I think I ramped up to it. I just enjoy understanding new things, learning new things. It's just a new challenge. And because the idea is only if I'm comfortable with it, right? Can I tell my students that this is okay? This can be done and you need to adapt because students did need that because what happened was, a lot of them found it difficult to adapt to the new technology. So, as a teacher, right, I couldn't kind of tell them, what, I'm also in the same boat, but what, I have to be ahead of you guys to be able to help you guys understand that this is where we are heading and this is where we are going. So, there is, otherwise, you're going to be left behind.
Yeah.
So I will just tell you, particularly my previous semester, I had 41 students. I independently reached out to all 41 of them because not all of them were in the same situation. For some, it was okay. Some of them didn't even have internet connection. A lot of them, I think, the focus was more on not just the academics bit, but focusing on the emotional bit and making the students emotionally stronger so that they could deal with the situation and then come and sit in front of the class. And yes, there have been times when once students got the hang of the technology, some of them kept muting others and all that, but then you beat technology with technology, right? So you just figured out ways by which you can ensure that they were not given those privileges. So I think, those were some of the things that I've employed, in trying to be there for my students, not just for, the academic bit, but also the emotional bit, because ultimately, it is not just the marks or whatever that's going to be there. Are you able to, this is a real, life situation. And are you able to real test? This is the real exam, right? Whether you can actually deal with something, that is in front of you, and how well are you dealing with it given the, situation, because it is not like, everybody could discuss the situation. But again, as I said, it's not that all of them, it is a level playing field, because some of them did not have, internet. Some of them, no electricity, no materials. How are you going to study? Because they were all there, and we had exams too. We did conduct exams, but it required, a lot of, what is it, as I said, being there for the students emotionally.
Yeah, that's right. So how do you think the students have responded to the online format? Like, do you think they're adjusting, and if you need help, they help you, or are they not helpful and like they don't like adjust properly with the things being taught and the video on off thing, as I mentioned before? Along with the
Right,
fact that, as a school going student, I know that teachers have a lot of load on them with the corrections that are not physical anymore, but are actually virtual. So you get pictures of work and you need to correct that. So how are you dealing with that in consideration with your eyesight and, being a working mother as well?
I don't know. It is something that, what I'm concerned about is the long term effects of radiation and being exposed to the, some form of screen or the other for a long time. So, what I do is I tell my kids, I kind of do that as well, tell my students as well, every now and then, we just need to take a break away from the screen and do some exercises for the, for the eyes, and then come back to it. Reality is, this is not going away. We have to live with this, but we don't have to live miserably with it, right? We have to figure out a way where it is also conducive for us, where, try and achieve that optimal stage where, we are still learning, but not at the cost of our health, and not at the cost of, so many other things.
Yeah, that's true. So now coming to back to COVID. Do you think like the stigma attached with COVID, what do you think about it? Like how people are being, like people who have been diagnosed with COVID, how they're being handled, the
Right,
fact that they have posters outside their homes, and
right,
people are like not willing to get in contact with them, obviously because they are infected with COVID. Like, how are you?
right.
What's your opinion about that?
See, they are human beings after all. If they are your family, right, how would you treat them? It is the same way that you have to treat them, but that doesn't mean that you have to be foolhardy. You can't take risks. It is very important that you need to be safe. So safety is very important, but empathy is also equally important. Once you've taken care of your safety, and just go and whatever help that you can do, go ahead, because ultimately, it is the positivity that will play a major role in the recovery of the person as well. See, actually, interestingly, my mom gave an example. She always gives this example that I will share with you. See, suppose when you're on a flight, they actually give these instructions, right? You first put your belt, and then take care of your child. So even if it is your own child, you first have to take care of yourself and then take care of your child, right? Because if you're not safe, what is the point? You're just going to create more problems. So I think, in terms of this SMS, right? SMS stands for what? Sanitizing, masking, and social distancing. Okay, maintain that, and definitely with empathy too. Don't be foolhardy. Don't, like, somebody has COVID, I'm going to go hug that person. No, that doesn't make sense. Somebody has COVID, can I, and they need help. For example, I know, quite a few people, some of my students and people that I know. So what I can do at this stage is, provide emotional support. So that, I've been reaching out to them constantly to ensure that, that they're good, they are, kind of, the things are taken care of and all that. And if they need help, yes, I'm willing to go to the, and some of the, older people in the community, not that they had COVID, but definitely offered to help them, in terms of buying their groceries, or making them, telling them about these, online stores, so that they can go ahead and, kind of order rather than, going to the store physically and ordering. So things like that, yes. Obviously, there is no stigma attached to it. It should not be. You should not treat the, a COVID infected person any differently. But again, you cannot, toss off all the safety precautions. Those need to be in place, and it's subject to that, empathy, as I said, and whatever physical help that they need, should be given.
Yeah, that's perfectly right. So do you think the pandemic has changed you, like something that's changed about you, except for the fact that, of course, you've become more technologically inclined? Anything that you have encountered, or maybe something that has positively impacted you about the lockdown or the COVID situation? Anything?
I think it makes you realize what is, of value. At least for me, it has made me realize that, what are the things that we value most. Sometimes in this race against, I want to do this, I want to do that. We tend to forget about, the quality time that is being spent with family. The empathy factor in, kind of gets replaced with goals and all that, right? So now all that has gone for a toss, because the ultimate end goal is not money or name or fame, but whether you're actually there for the person next to you, be it your family. Or I think, this has brought, COVID has brought that
Yeah.
to the fore. I would say more, it makes you more, or it has made me more human, I think. Looking at the, the suffering of the people has also come to the fore. So in the face of that, right, everything else, in terms of what money can buy and all that, just doesn't, just is just gone. You don't need, some of the most, the branded things and all that. They don't even matter now. Not that it really mattered in the past, but what I'm saying is even more so now, because, you just need some basic things in life that are required, and beyond that, being human is very important.
Yeah. On this note, thank you so much, ma'am, for your time.
Sure.
Thank
Sure. Can I just ask you, if you want to stop the recording, you can stop the recording. I just want to find out which school